Kempire is brought to you by the Kempire After Dark Tour is officially here. We just had a sold-out show in New York City back in January and a sold-out show in D.C. just a week ago. Now we're coming to Philly. Philly, March 7th, we will be in your city and surrounding areas. So if you are living in the surrounding area near Philly or will be in Philly on March 7th, get your tickets now for our live kitchen table talk, all kinds of hot topics, and reality TV conversation. And just announced, Nashville. Tickets are officially going to be on sale this Friday, February 23rd, for our Nashville show in July. July 11th, we'll be in Nashville. July 12th, we will be in Atlanta. Before that, we will be in Boston, May 30th. And I know a lot of you are asking, when are you coming to my city? Well, we are announcing cities as they're confirming, and we will be announcing more cities to come. I just heard about another West Coast place, so stay tuned. Make sure that you're following me on all socials so that way you don't miss out when those cities are announced. Again, I will see you guys in Philly March 7th. May 30th, I'll see you in Boston. July 11th, I'll see you in Nashville. Then July 12th, Atlanta, here we come. The Kempire After Dark Tour is officially here. You're listening to Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. Live. Come on in, y'all. Yes, come on in. Welcome back to the Kempire channel. All right. Yes. Part two of our Where is Wendy Williams Lifetime 2-part documentary. If you missed part 1, go check it out. If you want to take us on the go and you just want to hear it while you're doing something else, you can do that by downloading the Kempire podcast. I had to make time today so we could recap it live. If you missed it, we did recap Real Housewives of Potomac earlier today, so be sure to check out that recap. Normally, we would recap Potomac now, but priorities. I'd much rather be here with you talking about this and taking callers, talking about part 2 of this documentary. I don't know about you, trigger warning. Again, I gave you a trigger warning last week in regards to this, yesterday, it feels like last week, yesterday in regards to watching this documentary, because there are a lot of heavy topics that are discussed in this documentary. And I was like, you know what, part 1, I was like, I'm good. I mean, there were some sad moments, but I teared up a little bit during certain moments. But part two is more than 2 hours. It's like 2.5 hours. Okay, with commercials. But part 2 got me. It got me. I was like, oh, certain moments, seeing Wendy cry the way, like she's very emotional. First of all, a combination of reasons, what she's dealing with, physically, and she's a Cancer. Come on. We talk astrological signs here. So she's very sensitive. But she's also dealing with a lot, all right? So let's get the notification squads out. Let everyone know that we are live recapping this. But if you want to take us on the go and you want to hear this later on, or you just want to re-listen to it later on, you will be able to hear this on the Kempire podcast, both on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Let's get into this recap of part 2 of Where is Wendy Williams, 2-part documentary on Lifetime. Hey, y'all. I was just talking to our friends backstage here on TikTok. Shout out to everyone watching on TikTok. Shout out to everyone watching on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. We appreciate you all. And of course, shout out to everyone watching on YouTube. This is our part 2 of the Wendy Williams documentary that came out over the weekend on Lifetime. This was technically episodes 3 and 4. It was broken down in 4 hours. This docuseries that they did, documenting Wendy and her family and the people that were around her. We have a lot to unpack, but as I said before, I'm going to say it again for those that might just be joining us, giving you a trigger warning based off of the topics that we will be discussing might be triggering to some of you that have gone through this, didn't realize that this was discussed, may not realize what we're going to bring up during this recap. So just a warning, especially if you've dealt with dementia, or if you dealt with addiction. Those things are going to be discussed. So I want to give everyone a heads up before we get into part 2 of the Where is Wendy Williams documentary. I was hoping by the end of this, we would find out where Wendy Williams is, but we don't. Spoiler alert. Okay. We don't necessarily. However, at the end, we do get to meet her sister, Wanda, who kind of gives us some hope. But we will get there. We will get there. Before we get into anything, yesterday during the live, we played for you Dr. Terry Simpson on TikTok, who talks about a lot of these brain affected disorders and diseases and things like that. So he talked about Wendy Williams. So I think it's important to share it again for those that did not see part one of our recap. It's important to understand what we're looking at in this documentary. All right. So let me play that for you guys.
That Wendy Williams is suffering from frontotemporal dementia, the same kind that Bruce Willis is. And she's only 59 years old. She had to stop production of her show 2 years ago because of her early signs of frontotemporal dementia, which was, in this case, aphasia. Now, aphasia is finding the right word, which we all have sometimes difficulty doing. But it can become constant and more difficult, and that is an early sign of a brain problem. Frontotemporal dementia has to do with the frontal part of the brain, this frontal lobe of the brain, which is the filter. That is also, think about someone who has alcohol. The more alcohol you drink, the more you shut down that filter. People who drink a lot of alcohol will say things they would never normally say in public. People with frontotemporal dementia will say things and do things that one would never do in public because that frontal lobe is not developed properly. It's just deteriorating over time from dementia. The reasons people get dementia are complex. We know some of them. We know that she suffered from addictions of cocaine and alcoholism. Both of those are an increased risk of dementia. Other things that can cause an increased risk of dementia include histories of depression, people who have poor diets, age, male sex. Those are other things. And even though there are certain things that we can do to decrease our risk of dementia, for example, a Mediterranean-style diet decreases your risk of dementia by those who adhere to it by as much as 53%. That's not zero. It still means people can still get it. It just means that we can reduce your risk of getting it. And we are going to hear more and more about dementia as time goes on. Now, some people will say it's all the statins being out there. Statins do not increase your risk of dementia. They actually decrease your risk of dementia. And specifically, they will decrease something called vascular dementia, which is what my mother suffered from. My mother, like Wendy Williams, had a fierce brain. And it is so hard seeing someone with that brilliant brain, that great intelligence, slowly lose it. Just for a few things, they estimate that she has about 12 to 13 years left of life because that's what happens with that type of dementia. Vascular dementia, like my mother had, was about a 5-year course. Alzheimer's, about a 12 to 14-year-old course. Why? What happens to the brain? The brain deteriorates so much that it actually loses its ability to do the executive functions involved in breathing, involved in heart rate, involved in all those things your body needs. And that's what ultimately people die from when they have dementia. So, horrible disease. We have 6.5 million people now who are suffering from it. It's going to only continue unless we have medical breakthroughs. But what you can do to help decrease your risk of this, can't decrease it to zero again, fruits, vegetables, Mediterranean-style diet, exercise, talking, social communications. Keep your brain active by learning new things and doing all that. That's the best you can do. And as soon as we have a medical breakthrough, I promise I will be on here immediately touting it. Until then, do the things that you can do. Eat well, live well, enjoy the life, use your brain. Thanks. If you like this, like, follow, share.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Terry, I need to DM you and ask you about the male sex part. Are you saying if you are a male, you're more prone to dementia, or are you saying people that have sex with males? But then I'm thinking, well, that would affect women too. So I think he's just talking about gender. Look, we're going to have a little bit of a kiki when we can because of the heavy topics that we're going to be covering, okay? If you were here yesterday, I'm still sort of like, what you mean, sir? What you mean? Jasmine, thank you, Jasmine. Jasmine says, Kempire, I think he meant males are more at risk. Yeah, but regardless, he gave us a little bit more clarity on what we are seeing in Wendy Williams and also the similar diagnosis that we saw with Bruce Willis. A lot of people are saying, so why don't we see Bruce Willis, out here, doing the same thing? Because Bruce Willis actually has a good group of people, a family around him, and there is no outside guardian that's over him. I believe his wife is his guardian. So that is the difference. one of the glimmer of hope that we got from part 2 of this documentary was the fact that The Guardian is reviewed every single year, and she's up for a review this year. Please, no doxing of The Guardian's name in our chat. I will say this, it's very easy to find the information because there are multiple media outlets reporting on who this is. But for the intention of the documentary, they have redacted The Guardian's name. So let's please respect that in our chat and when you call in. We will be taking callers in a few. All right, let's just go through what happens in part 2 of the Where is Wendy Williams documentary, because shout out to the producers. And I know some people are on the fence about, this documentary and if it was exploitive. Jacqueline, Kempire wants to know for science. Of course, I want to know for science. But so shout out to the producers of this documentary, because I felt like of everyone that was a part of this, I didn't think that they were being exploitive. They decided to stop filming Wendy after it became clear that she was not in the right space. But throughout the filming, you could see that they were just doing part of their job as a team that documents things, and they wanted to get the real what was going on. But you could see that they were trying to be sensitive, and they were still trying to care for Wendy. Honestly, I felt like the production team was looking more out for Wendy than the people that she paid to look out for her. Will, Sean Zanotti, where's Sean at? Is Sean still the publicist? I think after Sean bamboozled and stole Wendy and brought her to okay, she didn't steal her and bring her away, but Wendy convinced her to take her, and she didn't tell Will, and Will was yelling in the phone. Will, we saw your true side then. But I get it. You were like, I'm the only one that's supposed to have control over Wendy, no one else. Okay, but we'll get there. All right, so at the top of this, Wendy opens up about the talk show executive saying that there are certain things that she will need to do in order to return to television, making sure that her health was in the right place in order for her to return, all right? She had to meet certain criteria. So this is when we get to see Alex. Alex is preparing to come see Wendy, so she's in the car. She's excited. You can see that she's genuinely excited to see her aunt and her godmother, and she's just like, she's expecting her Wendy to be a certain way when she sees her. They have this sort of banter that they have. But when Alex arrives, that banter doesn't even happen. She's in a different space. She doesn't even look that excited. She's more concerned about the television. And it might be for a combination of reasons because of what she's dealing with, but I also feel like Alex is sort of like, she's taken on a role that's sort of like, I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe Wendy doesn't like that. We see it happen later when Alex has an honest conversation with her aunt about when she starts talking about returning to television. She's just like, well, you remember what they said, you have to do certain things. So Wendy doesn't want to hear that. She wants to hear what people like Sean and Will are telling her. Okay? So Alex is excited, and she says, being in awe of her aunt. And I've told you guys yesterday, if you've been a Wendy Nista for a very long time, you knew that before she even had Lil Kev, it was like Alex was her daughter. She always used to talk about Alex, all right? And if you watch the Wendy after show, you would see Alex every once in a while pop up on there. And Alex is also a journalist now, all right? So Wendy says that she wants to move because of her feature. She wants to move out of this apartment. Guys, I did not realize that I walked past Wendy Williams' apartment all the time. It's right down where I go, do my Pilates. I was like, wait up. I was like, that's her building, because, they showed it a lot in the documentary. And I was like, oh, that's her home, which is kind of also like eerie after watching this documentary, that you're walking past someone that you've watched for so long and you don't even realize how many floors up she's going through what she was going through. Oh, it gives me chills. All right. So she's talking about moving. She says that she had spoken to Alex about when she planned on moving, and then she kind of hides her mouth, even though we can clearly see it. There's a camera behind her, a camera in front of her, saying that, I'll be moving in 3 weeks. I don't know if she ever really bought another place or where she moved to. I know they said that this apartment later in the documentary, that the apartment went up for sale. I never saw that. I didn't see. I'm still looking for it. I don't know if this apartment really has been put on sale. Obviously, it's been cleaned out, though. It's been cleaned out. So I don't know. I will let you guys know once we find out whether or not this apartment was sold. But, all right. Okay. Anyways, so Wendy says that Sean is there, and Sean Zanotti, the publicist. Let me show you a picture for those that might have forgotten who we're talking about. I made sure I had Sean Zanotti is Wendy's publicist. I've never seen her before. I don't know who she's been a publicist for. After this, I can't imagine someone working with Sean, to be honest with you. I can't imagine someone working with Sean. I mean, someone will always work with, somebody, but after this, if you were looking for a villain, if you thought Will Selby was the villain, Will, you're not innocent. But at least he knows how to play it up for the camera. Sean Zanotti, and it's like Alex knew. Alex must be so intuitive. I don't know if something happened that they edited out, but based on what we saw, it felt like as soon as Sean came into the room, Alex asked her some questions like, so where are you? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then Alex is like, I'm not doing this. She gets up and she walks away. And she's like, she's got to go. I don't like her. I don't like her energy. I'm adding all of this commentary. But you could tell there was nothing that Sean did exactly. But I was just like, oh, my God. I was like, what is going on? What did Alex sense from this woman? Yes, there are a lot of people around Wendy that are questionable, but I was like, what did she like? I was like, what did you suspect from Sean? When she told me, when Wendy said that Sean Zanotti was sleeping in the back, the publicist is sleeping in your house? And when Wendy was talking to Alex about, she's your publicist, and and guess what? She knows other things. She knows finance. So clearly, Alex is like, she knows finance. Okay, suspicious. So Wendy and Alex end up talking because Alex is like, I'm not dealing with this woman. She can go. Get her out of here. So she gets her out of there. Okay. So Wendy talked about having no money at Wells Fargo. She accuses Wells Fargo of mismanagement of her money. All right. She said, I had billions of dollars. Okay. So this is where the disease come in. This is where, the dementia and things like Wendy did not have billions of dollars at Wells Fargo. Did she have millions? Yes. According to the disclaimer that they give you, they said there was no evidence. Wendy said that she had evidence to prove that Wells Fargo had taken all of her money. All right. There was no evidence that they had taken her money. As we already know, the money is under a guardianship. It was frozen by Wells Fargo because of suspicious activity. Okay. All right. So as I said to you guys before, Alex gets emotional. She asks for Sean to leave. Sean ends up leaving. Alex gives Wendy some tough love. A couple of times throughout this documentary, Alex gives her aunt some tough love, and she says, like, you're better than this. And I feel for Alex because I know a lot of people are going to be harsh, like, she's dealing with dementia. She doesn't understand. Here's the thing, and I know for other people that have dealt with folks that have dementia or addiction, you probably had similar conversations thinking that maybe you could break through that wall. So I'm not going to judge Alex for the way that she spoke to her aunt. She's thinking, if I say this to her, it might help crack into her, at least a spark of hope into who she once was. All right? So she really tries to say to her aunt, like, you're better than this. You can do better than this. You have a lot of people around you. And she's like, what? Stealing money? Yeah. She's like, Alex, relax. And that she understands. She's like, I understand. And then, because I guess she's done with the conversation, she's like, I'm done for the day. And then she goes upstairs. Because I guess Alex is probably one of the few people in her life that will tell her the real. And she doesn't want to hear the real. She wants to hear that she's returning to television. All right. So then we have the saga of Wendy Williams going to LA. All right. For those that are just joining us, we're talking about the 2-part documentary on Lifetime called Where is Wendy Williams? So Wendy decides to uproot herself and go to LA. And you're probably like, what's wrong with her going to LA? Nothing wrong with her going to LA, but she's under a guardianship, so she really is not allowed to do anything. And she doesn't have access to money. So how is she paying for this? So Will finds out that she went to LA. He gets angry. He's on the phone yelling, and he curses at Wendy. He says, maybe you need to bring your ass back here now. I will say this. There have been multiple moments in part 1 and part 2 of this documentary where Will spoke to Wendy in a way that I felt like she pays you. You work for her. Yes, she's going through a lot right now, but the level of disrespect that he's shown, telling her to get up when she doesn't need to get up, where is she working? You keep talking about a podcast that you know is not going to come to fruition. You could do a podcast. If Wendy was in the right state of mind, she could do a podcast the same day and you could have released it. So you're just trying to prop her up for whatever reason. So you're not much better than this one, Sean Zanotti. You're not much better. You're just better at hiding it on this documentary. So Sean apparently got a phone call. She got a phone call. So she ends up on the phone with Will to tell him, like, well, she called me. She said that she was upset. And that, she told me not to tell you. She told me she was petrified. I was like, no, she didn't. Look, no, she didn't. I feel like all Wendy had to say is, come, girl. I want to go to L.A. I want to go see my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Sean wanted to separate Wendy from Will so that she could probably land some sort of deal with NBC Universal. Sean must be delusional too. Because even in part 1, she's like, oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with her drinking. She knows how to control it. Sidebar, at one point, Will calls Wendy selfish and immature. Okay. I'm like, clearly you do not know what you're dealing with, or you're refusing to pay attention to what you're dealing with. All right? Will says that the Guardian had reached out to him and asked about Wendy. At this point, he has not told the Guardian that she's in LA. So Sean tells Wendy that she got her a meeting. So the film crew ends up going to LA when probably Will should have went to LA with them. So the film crew ends up going to LA to meet up with Wendy so that she could shoot them. All right. So Sean tells Wendy in the bathroom. She whispers, even though she's mic'd. I don't know if she realized that. She's like, oh, I got you a meeting with NBC Universal. So Wendy clearly excited. In the entire day, that's all she could talk about. All right. So they're in the car heading to, they're going to go get some, they're going to go on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and I did go look for Wendy's star. I saw it. So when she was there, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly where it is. All right. Sidebar. Why they got Michael Jackson's star on? I feel like they got him on the weirdest street. Maybe it was different back in the day when they actually put it there. But I was just like, why is Michael Jackson on this very dark, dreary street? Just saying. Anyways, Wendy's is in a prime spot. She's in a good spot. But who knows? Years from now, will that be a prime spot? Who knows? Anyways, so they go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She sees some fans. She's talking with the fans. They're asking her about, the show. Is the show going to come back? She's like, well, I'm talking to Universal. All right. So they take pictures with her. I'm wondering what those fans thought because she didn't seem herself. I don't know. Maybe when you're in the moment, you don't even notice that she doesn't seem herself. Who knows? But she looked like she was happy. She says that she loves being famous. She loves that she could roll down the window and someone might recognize her. All right. So when she's in the car and they're talking about this meeting with NBC Universal and they're talking about the daytime talk show, and she's like, yeah, I don't want to do it in Miami. Mind you, they're in LA. And so the producers are like, you mean LA? She's like, yeah, I wanted to do it in New York. And she's talking about, I'm going to show them this is how I want to be dressed for this new daytime talk show. And I'm going to show them my feet because, she has a lymphedema. All right. So she's like, I'm going to show them she's saying this before she actually does it. So apparently when they do have this meeting with NBC Universal, NBC refused to talk about the meeting. Understandably, God only knows what happened in that meeting and what they were thinking. Of course, if someone that represents Wendy is going to call up, she would like to have a meeting, they're going to have a meeting. All right. But before they even go to the meeting, they go to lunch. And clearly, it's very obvious that Wendy has a drinking problem. All right. So Sean doesn't stop her from drinking. She's ordering drinks. Sean's just sitting there. She's smoking her vape. Sean's just sitting there on her phone. Sitting there on her phone like this. Just kind of looking back at Wendy. And she's like, I don't see anything wrong with Wendy's drinking. All right. Okay. And when they asked her in the car about why the show ended, she says, I was done. I was done with it. Okay. So the Hollywood Reporter cover story is discussed, and Sean Zanotti, I'm going to say former publicist because there ain't no way in hell. Look, there ain't no way in hell this woman is still the publicist, but you just never know. So she says, she tries to downplay. We did a whole special live covering the Hollywood Reporter story. So if you missed that, be sure to check that out. So they talk about the Hollywood Reporter article, and Sean tries to downplay it. She said those are all alleged situations. You know what I mean? She says that when Sean talks about, when they ask her, how long have you been working with Sean? She's like, oh, I met her weeks ago, hours ago. And then Sean says, oh, we've been working together for a year, over a year. Okay. Then Sean decides Wendy starts to say how she doesn't trust Will anymore. She trusts Zanotti more than Will. And then she says, I want a new manager. So, of course, productions are like, Sean says that, she's her public, when asked, would she manage her? These production folks, they know what they were doing. They're like, would you manage her? And she's like, well, no, I'm the publicist, but I guess I'm doing managerial things. She's driving the car. I guess I'm doing managerial things. And I was like, and there we have it. And there it goes. There it goes. Because why would your publicist not inform a manager of you taking your client to LA and then you're scheduling meetings? And at one point in the car, after the, I think it was after the meeting or before the meeting, Sean says to her, do you want to go to the Oscars? I wanted to come through my television. Do you want to go to the Oscars? And Sean, who's been downplaying what's going on with Wendy says, what's the Oscars? Wendy says, what's the Oscars? Again, Sean is saying, oh, she sometimes forgets things. Do I think that Sean is just, delusional or in denial? No, I think she is intentionally in denial. For me, after watching part 2, we already kind of could tell in part 1 that Sean was shaky. In part 2, it was solidified for me. I was like, oh, if we're looking for a villain in this story, it's Sean Zanotti. And she's the publicist. You would think the publicist would know how to act on camera. Apparently not. You about to lose your job. I was just like, what is going on? But the family during this are reacting and saying, what is she doing in LA? She has the wrong people around her. They're always trying to prop her up to make her work. She doesn't need to work. She needs to focus on her health. It was clear what Sean was trying to do. I think she was trying to convince Wendy to hire her as the manager. Homegirl asked her, you want to go to the Oscars? She's like, yeah. First, she was like, I don't know what that is. And then she was just like, oh, I want to wear the outfit that she was wearing, that Gucci outfit that she was wearing. She's like, oh, no, you probably would have to wear a gown. And you didn't bring anything, like that. Wendy was just like, no, I don't want to go. Can you imagine if they ended up going to the Oscars? That would have been such a big news story, and you are the publicist. You're supposed to be trying to prevent these news stories from happening, but now you're trying to take her to a red carpet at the Oscars? Questionable. Very, very questionable. All right. So we already talked a little bit about Wendy going to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and talking about how she loves being famous. She also got to meet some fans there. She took some pictures with them. And of course, they were asking about the show. We also talked a little bit about Wendy's lunch where she was drinking. And Will ended up calling her. And she was like, what? He's like, well, why are you saying what? I'm calling to check up on you. I'm trying to see what's going on. And Will assumes that she's drinking. Will, here's the thing. Will really tried to make it seem like he was preventing Wendy from drinking. Okay, based off what he showed on the show, great. Because he showed multiple times how when they went out to lunch in part 1, he was like, do not serve her drinks. When he went to the hotel, if anyone calls for drinks, do not allow them to bring drinks up here. He made sure no drinks were in the hotel room. It felt performative. I'm going to say that. It felt performative. However, she is an adult. But it's a very touchy situation because he's not her guardian. So he can't really stop her from drinking. But at the same time, I felt like this feels a little performative. It feels a little performative. But who knows? If anything, at least he was trying versus Sean Zanotti. Sean Zanotti wasn't even trying. Anyways, guys, don't forget we will be in Philly on March 7th. March 7th, the Kempire After Dark live tour will be stopping down in Philly. We will be talking about Wendy. We will be talking about some of the hot topics and Real Housewives, Married to Medicine, and so much more. If you haven't gotten your tickets and you live in Philly or South Jersey, get your tickets today. That show is, a week and a half away? I can't wait to meet all of you guys in Philly on March 7th. More information on Philly's live show is available in the description of this video. And if you're listening to this, in the episode notes. We will also be stopping in Boston, Nashville, and Atlanta. More cities will be announced. All of that information is available in the description of this video and audio version. Okay, let me say thank you because we got a couple of super chats. Yakini, thank you so much for the super chat. Yakini says, this documentary exposed our broken and opportunistic guardianship system. I believe with the curtain pulled back, now Wendy may get the help she needs. That is the hope, and I think that's part of the reason why the family eventually signed on to be a part of this documentary. Okay? Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Joe says, from Dr. Joe, sex with other males is a physical activity unless you're a lazy oh gosh, which means can reduce the risk. Since males have a higher risk, then gays should have more sex. Hashtag the more you know. Please do not listen to Joe Mendoza. He is not a doctor. Okay, just want to point that out. Or maybe it is, and we didn't know that. Are you confessing now, Joe? Keela, thank you so much for the super chat. Keela says, if I type what I want about Crooked Will and leave out Zanotti, you'll ban me from the channel. Yes, please don't. Please don't, Keela. Thank you so much for the super chat. Forever G, thank you so much for the super chat. What if Bill Cosby or Diddy is behind all of this? Well, you remember years ago, Bill Cosby and Wendy had, a situation. He tried to get her fired. And then I think Diddy did get her fired, and that's why she went to Philly. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Joe, thank you so much for another super chat. Joe says, this is giving Britney Spears a level scheming. Yeah, if anything, it might be worse. I mean, well, is it worse? It's hard to say if it's worse because Britney's situation was her own family. I feel like Britney's is worse because that was her family. Rahina, thank you so much for the super chat. Well, here's the difference, too, though. Britney was under that conservatorship for, 13 years? I mean, at least with Wendy, we can say, if anything, she won't be under conservatorship for 13 years. Rahina, thank you so much for the super chat. Rahina says, Sean is just yuck. She's doing this for her personal gain, ordering her drink. She is not fit to be around Wendy, and I don't like how Will talks to her. These people are not experienced to deal with this delicate situation. Agreed. Thank you so much, Yakini, for another super chat. Yakini says, the way Will yells may be a little familiar, comforting to her, because it's probably how Big Kev was mean, / controlling behind the scenes, and it made her feel safe. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, that I feel like the reason why Wendy responds so well to Will Selby is because I think it kind of reminds her of when Big Kev was around. You know what I mean? We will talk about Big Kev because Big Kev is speaking out about this documentary. We'll talk about that in a second. Julie, thank you so much for the super chat. Julie says, I miss my family seeing her dad after 8 months. Yeah, when she says I miss my family, that broke my heart. Julie, thank you so much for another super chat. Julie says, I think production did a great job protecting Wendy. Do you think they were, quote, helping to start the Free Wendy movement, or giving them or we're giving them too much credit? I think that they had a job to do, and based off of the recent report that we did in regards to the direction of this, because the original direction of this documentary was to document her return, but it ended up becoming a documentary about guardianship. So I think based off what I could tell, look, we're watching an edited documentary, but you could tell that they genuinely seemed like they were concerned about Wendy. They still had a job to do, but I think they were a little bit more empathetic than the people that Wendy was paying to take care of her. All right. Thank you guys so much for the super chat. We appreciate it, guys. We have over 1,500 people on YouTube alone watching, and quite a few of you watching here on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. We appreciate it. Don't forget to keep liking the video, share the video, and if you're a part of the replay crew, be sure to let us know your thoughts on part 2 of the Wendy Williams documentary that came out over the weekend on Lifetime. All right. Moving on from there, they talk a little bit, while Wendy is still in LA, she talks about the meeting that she had. She says it was nothing but women. She says that she told them, this is the way I want to look. She says she showed them her feet. She says it was comical in a weird way, showing them her feet. NBC declined to comment for the filming of this documentary. All right. So Will, when Wendy comes back from LA, she's upstairs in her apartment with Sean Zanotti. And I'm so mad that we didn't get this on film, because God only knows what Will said and did when he went up there. He said the conversation got heated. He refused to have cameras up there when he went up there. All of a sudden you want to stop filming? No, let's see what you have to say to Sean. Will. Just saying. So he said the convo got heated, and he says that Sean Zanotti denies that she was trying to replace him. All right. Will says that Wendy came back from LA even more disheveled and completely a different person. I don't know if I agree with that. What I will say is probably because the NBC meeting didn't go well and there was no confirmation, like, yeah, we want to give you a deal. That probably made her more depressed. Right? So he, of course, Will wants to make it seem like under his care, everyone is, Wendy's the best. No, not at all. Not at all. Kevin says that Will is a jeweler, but he does believe that Will is trying to do his best, but his mom is a lot. Remember, there was a period where Kevin Jr. was taking care of his mom when they were in Florida. Yes, she was doing well, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Kevin says that he's afraid that his mom is going to die. He says that in the confessional. We then get this scene, and I said this before when we saw the preview for this documentary, and we figured out it was Black Chyna that was laying in the couch with Wendy in the trailer. And I said, I wonder if, because Black Chyna's been on this new spiritual journey, changing her life, taking out all of the fillers and the things like that. And I said, I wonder if it was this interaction that really kind of made Black Chyna look at her life differently and want to change. Because when she came out and saying that she was changing everything, I was just like, because it was so left field. But seeing this interaction between Black Chyna and Wendy was so endearing. And we like to talk astrological signs. And I was on Fem Tarot's channel yesterday talking about Wendy and Portia and Simon and the royal family. We were talking about Tauruses and Cancers, and I was like, you know, Black China is a Cancer, right? No, not a Cancer, a Taurus, and Wendy's a Cancer. But this scene between Wendy and Black China was so sweet. The way that Wendy looked at Black China with such loving eyes, I thought this was such a sweet moment. You remember, of course, Wendy used to talk about Black China on the Wendy Williams show, and they had a little bit of a beef. And then Black China was on the show, and ever since then, they had become friendly. And she says, you know, they've gone out to eat. She says, we love to eat. And I was like, yes, Taurus, you better speak. We love to eat. And of course, Wendy loves to eat as well. But this interaction with her and Black China, a.k.a. Angela White, was really endearing. It kind of made me look at Black China so differently. Wendy took off her wig. Honestly, for me, she looked better without the wig. I felt like the wig was kind of making her look a little bit more gaunt. Maybe it was the color of the wig. I don't know. And she's like, you know, my name is Wendy Hunter. She's like, I'm divorced. And then she says, he's broke. I was like, damn, okay, Wendy. Wendy's still in there. But Black China was so sweet with her when she took off her shoes to show her the feet. She was touching the feet, and she was just like, you know. And then when she took off her wig, she was like, you're still beautiful. I was like, oh, Black China, you have my heart. Black China, you have my heart. It was such a sweet, the way that she was so kind and gentile with Wendy. I was like, Black China, this was a really, 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 really sweet moment. And it felt so genuine with so many people that were around Wendy that felt so disingenuous. Seeing this moment between Black China and Wendy felt so genuine. The way that they embraced at the end and Black China was laying in her lap. I was like, this was so sweet. So sweet. Anyways, I say all that to say, Black China, maybe this is what changed your life. And it to me, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense seeing someone like this come from where Wendy has come from and in the same industry. I could see how that might make you go, you know what? Let me clean up my life. Let me get my life together. Or if anything, motivate you to keep getting your life together. Heather says that the Black China scene had me tearing up. They truly love each other. Yeah, there was a true love there. They didn't talk about the daytime talk show. They didn't talk about anything. It was just more like, how are you doing? You know, I'm going to be coming back, you know, back and forth between, you know, LA and New York more. I'm going to definitely come see you. Really, really, really sweet. I really enjoyed that scene between the two of them. All right. Was there anything else that I wanted to say? Oh, okay. Every time I see you guys, and if you say I love you, I'm going to be like, so do I. Wendy, I am taking that. She said, Black China says, I love you. She says, so do I. I'm using it. And you know where I got it from. So do I. Just saying. I love that. You should love yourself. Just saying. Anyways. All right. Wendy then prepares herself to go to Florida. So we're going to see the family more in this next couple of scenes, including Tommy. All right. Wendy talks about, you know, the apartment that she bought for her family when she was 27 years old. She's like, it's a fabulous apartment in Miami that she bought for them when she was 27. But then she gets emotional talking about, anytime she talks about her son, she gets very emotional. But she brings up the fact that he hates that she drinks. She said the same thing about Wanda in part 1. She hates that I drink. And she sees nothing wrong with her drinking. So, according to my notes, at first the family and the show were on the same page about Wendy going to Florida and the treatment. But when the family prioritized her health over her coming back to the show, because remember, they have a show. They have advertisers. You remember this whole period where apparently there was no communication between Wendy and the show. The family, according to them, were prioritizing her health. They're like, we're not going to send her back because New York is not a place for her right now. They did not want to send her back, but the show, that's where the family and the show separated. I want to bring this next thing up because if this might be in regards to the timeline. So as you know, Kelvin Hunter reportedly did not love the fact of this documentary and felt like this was going to tarnish her legacy. All right. So I say all that to say He posted on his Instagram story. I'm not going to use what the Neighborhood Talk used as a title because I feel like the title that they used was incorrect. Because the title made it seem like Wanda was stealing money, and that's not based on what Big Kev is saying in this Instagram story. It feels incorrect. All right. So Big Kev says in this Instagram story, in regards to Wanda and the family and things like that, he says, "Okay, hold on, y'all. Let me read this. I gotta enlarge it." Okay, so everyone F Kevin through the docuseries. Did you guys recall anyone saying F Kevin in the docuseries? I don't recall anyone saying F Kevin in the docuseries. I felt like they were pretty light on him in the docuseries. Anyone else? I feel like they were pretty light on Kevin in the docuseries. But I guess when you've done wrong and you feel extra sensitive, a hit dog gon' holla. So he says, okay, so everyone heard F Kevin through docuseries. No problem. The show took precedent over everything, including family. What I guess they left out was that while she was in Florida getting recovery 3 years ago, there were the secret calls her sister was set up with Debmar Mercury, Mort, and Ira, with false pretense that she would be getting the show back. That was lie and broke, I guess, more than anything. They only were trying to get her there to satisfy an insurance claim so that they could obviously replace losses and the money that they were stealing, $5 to $15 million. Based on what I'm seeing here, he's accusing the show of stealing $5 to $15 million. Sidebar, did you guys hear about that Sherry Shepherd show producer who apparently was stealing money, didn't pay the rent, and then unlived himself? They better get some incense, some sage, a pastor, just to get the bad juju out of that building. All right, back to this. So he says that that they were stealing $5 to $15 million, and they wanted to control her sister, was trying to get ultimate control herself, and was medical proxy at the time. But her naivete allowed her only to be played, and once she got back to New York, they kicked her sister out, and she spiraled worse. I was involved at the time, blood on a lot of hands. I'm going to give the family grace, especially because of how complicated these particular systems are. Whether or not she was bamboozled in regards to the medical proxy, we don't know what was said or what was done. All right? We don't know what was said or what was done to bamboozle the family out of taking care of Wendy. But Kelvin, you think that we forgot that you had a 15, we want to talk about 15 million. You had a 15-year affair on Wendy and a whole baby. You also worked with Wendy for 20 plus years, made millions, made 20% off of everything, and you broke that it's a joke. Broke that it is a joke. Make it make sense. Sir, I'm not going to take anything from you when you've been lying to your then wife for 15 years. And then you have no money at this point? If anyone, if anything, you should be able to support Lil Kev. It should be noted that Lil Kev, based off of what the documentary reported, I think it was a documentary. No, I think it was one of the original reports that we did, that Lil Kev is receiving some sort of allowance from his mom, I guess, through the guardianship. All right. But Lil Kev did have power of attorney, but he was removed as power of attorney in 2022. And they had an attorney in this documentary in part 2 talk about why someone might be removed from being the guardian. And sometimes you're removed from being the guardian, power of attorney, for a couple of different reasons. The person at the time, meaning Wendy, did not, wasn't in the right state of mind when they assigned that. Or 2, the person that had power of attorney did something that made them not believe that they were doing things in the best interest of Wendy. All right? We'll get back to that. So Wendy ends up going to Florida to be with her family. She sits down for lunch with her son and nephew. They're 40 minutes late. All right. Lil Kev says he was at school. That's why he was late. This was a heartbreaking conversation. Lil Kev is definitely strong. Wanda later says in the documentary that, yes, Wendy is a strong person, but the resilience is in that boy, man, now at this point. All right? It's in that, because when you see him having this conversation with his mom, who's talking about a talk show or a podcast, she thinks the filming of this documentary is a podcast. He is able to have this conversation, even though it's not the most cognizant conversation. But if you take a look at Wendy's nephew, who she's very close with as well, Travis, who we hear throughout the documentary, who we see throughout the documentary, you could tell that he's holding back. He's holding back emotion in that moment. And for me, that was like the heartbreaking part of watching that scene. Travis was holding back a lot. And Lil Kev is just there, able to keep the conversation going. I was just like, woo, Kev, you are a real one. Because I'm like, because I'm looking at Travis, I'm like, oh my damn. Travis is over there holding back tears. Because he's looking at his aunt be a shell of who she used to be. All right. Wendy, again, is talking about the podcast. She's glad that he's about to be a part of the podcast. She's like, this is the podcast. This docuseries. It's not a podcast. All right. Wendy then has a conversation with Alex. And she says, I'm returning to TV in September. So Alex is not playing into the games of pretending. She's like, well, you remember what they said. If you were going to return, you had to meet certain criteria in order to return. Alex also reveals that she found out back in the fall of 2022 that her aunt was diagnosed with dementia. All right? Alex, in the moment in her conversation with her aunt, she says, like, you need to be healthy if you want to return to television. You could already tell Wendy starts to just switch. She wants to watch television. She doesn't want to hear what Wendy has to say. I mean, she doesn't want to hear what Alex has to say. So she's like, I want to watch television. Can I watch television? And Alex is just like, I'm going to be real with my aunt. No one else is going to be honest with her. She keeps talking about returning to television, and that's not going to happen if she's not focused on her health. So then we get this other scene with Wendy's father. It should be noted for those that don't even know this. Wendy's father is 90-something years old. And he seems more spry than his own daughter, who is 50-something years old. So they go to visit the father. They bring out some old albums because Wendy's parents had been keeping like memorabilia of her career over the years. So they're going through it. She's talking to her father. She's, again, talking about going back to television. So he's asking her questions about that. Then we have a scene with Tommy talking about growing up with Wendy. The producers then asked Tommy, because at one point Tommy was out telling the media that his sister did not have dementia. He says at the time he didn't know her diagnosis. All right? We always give Tommy the side eye. We don't want Tommy to be the guardian. That's clear. That's clear. All right? All right. So, what else happens in this scene that I want to talk about? Guys, if you're just joining us, we are talking about part 2 of the Wendy Williams documentary. We will be uploading the audio version of this on the Kempire podcast, so be sure to subscribe there so you can take us on the go. So Wendy they go out to dinner, and Tommy arrives and sits next to Wendy, and then she refers to him as Lil Kev. Okay? This is just to remind you what we're dealing with here in regards to Wendy's condition. All right. Then we have this weird, I don't know if it was Wendy that ordered the drinks to the table or if the guys had ordered drinks. I don't know. But they came over with these 2 glasses of wine, and Wendy was like, I just want one. I just want one. Both Travis and Kev took the wine for themselves. I would have sent it back. I was like, we'll pay for it, but let's send it back. I don't think they should be drinking around Wendy. But again, I'm not going to judge folks that are just new into understanding addiction and understanding dementia and understanding what they're dealing with. Okay? I just would not be drinking around her at all. All right? But they do order a soda for her, but she's having this side conversation with Tommy about, I just want one drink. And Tommy's like, no, you do not need one drink. You do not need that right now. All right? All right. So then we have this scene, and you remember we did a story about Tommy taking this video footage of them on the boat. This was that moment. This was that moment when they were on the boat. All right? All right. So she goes on the boat. First of all, trying to get on the boat, she was like, pull it closer, pull it closer. I was like, oh, damn. I mean, look, even with my two good legs, I always nervous going on those types of boats. I'm like, that thing is moving. If it moves too quick, you could fall. Just say. And if someone that has ailments with the legs, I understood. Anyway, so she's on the boat and she's having a conversation with her dad. And he's like, you should get back into doing art. And she's like, no, I don't want to do any art. I don't want to do any more hobbies. All right. You know, she's talking about her new apartment that she has coming up. So at the end of the scene, they play a little, they show us that Lil Kev wanted Wendy to stay in Miami a little bit longer, but she insisted on returning to New York. And she insisted on returning to New York because that's where she's able to drink and do whatever she wants and eat and vape and do all that stuff. But when she's around Kevin in Miami, she's not allowed to do those things. All right. So the producers talk to Wendy about healing while being with Kevin. So she's laying in the bed and they come to visit her and they're asking her, you know, she had a big old, what's that drink called? A mimosa. She had a mimosa. He's like, that's a very large mimosa. Well, she ends up getting very emotional in the bed. And then she says that I miss my family. And then she starts breaking down. And then Will, with his rough self, comes in like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, she doesn't need you to be rough with her right now. But like you guys said in the chat, that's probably all she's ever known. She was with Big Kev for so long. And then you know how he talk. Real rough. Yo. You know how he is. So that's what she's used to. But at the same time, like, get out of here. Stop being rough with her. She needs a moment. Was she drunk? Yes. She was definitely inebriated. All right. So producers have a side conversation with Will, and they're like, are you now seeing how serious this is? And he denies that, I've always saw how serious that it is, but he's like, now it's more consistent. Sir, come on now. But I like the fact that producers were calling out everyone's hypocrisy. Sean Zanotti hypocrisy, Will Selby's hypocrisy. But they didn't call it hypocrisy. We will call it hypocrisy. All right? Leah says, do that again. I'm not doing Kev. I haven't done Big Kev's voice in a very long time. I don't want to do it no more. Yo. All right, enough of that. We need to take these serious moments and make as light as possible, okay? All right. Let me read this comment. Okay. Unique, thank you so much for the super chat. Unique says, FYI, So Will is on another VH1 show called The Impact New York, so we know he is a manager. He's a manager of a girl named Cleo on the show. He's a new manager. I think after he started managing Wendy is when he decided, I'm going to manage people. But thank you so much, Unique. He's a new manager. He is a jeweler, okay? Asata, thank you so much for the super chat. Asata says, how are you, Kempire? Did you hear Ray J and Princess are divorcing? Just saw in the neighborhood talk, allegedly. Okay, do we realize that they've talked about divorcing like 500 times? So that is not breaking news. But thank you so much. I know you guys want to make sure that I'm in the know, but that is not a story. Until they actually signed the divorce papers, he was just taking photos of her winning like the celebrity gambling thing. You know, so a poker event. We're good. Look, we're good. I'll believe it when they actually file for divorce. Like literally, like the divorce is signed, sealed, and delivered. Anyways, back to more interesting news. Okay. Anyways. So in that moment, this is like the last time that we're going to see Wendy in this documentary. All right. It's not the last time that we hear from her, but this is the last time that we're really going to see her during filming because she pretty much hits rock bottom at this point. and locks herself in the apartment. Will talks about showing up to the apartment, talking about she's going to come down, but she doesn't come down. And then he, pushes his way into the house and he finds that she's, hiding in the bathroom. And there's liquor on the bed. So that's when they decided to have Wendy admitted to a wellness facility. And that's when the documentary stopped filming Wendy. All right. He says that Will says that the guardianship finally stepped up today in this moment. Then finally we get Wanda Williams Finney, Wendy's sister. So many people, after multiple reports talking about this situation, we have been asking, where is Wanda? Where is Wanda? Apparently Wanda has been around, as I said to you guys before. Big Kelvin Hunter, spoke out on his Instagram story slamming Wanda for giving up the medical proxy. Whatever. If anything, for me, Wanda was like the ray of hope at the end. The way that she spoke about her sister, the way that she defended her sister and saying that at one point they had asked her if she would be guardian. She was like, okay, what is a guardian? What does that entail? They were like, you would have to go through some sort of training. She was like, all right, I will do it. The family will step up and be there for Wendy. And then she said all of a sudden there was like a wall and another guardian was assigned. So production of this documentary spoke to an expert that talks about guardianship. And I think a lot of people thought that, of course, judges are going to assign guardianship to a family member than, a random person. Well, according to this woman, more and more judges are assigning strangers as guardians over the families. Is there a monetary compensation for judges doing this? Wouldn't shock me. All right. So they talk a little bit about that. So Wanda sits down and she talks about the resilience factor of Lil Kev and what he's been dealing with when it comes to his mom. All right. The producers do ask Lil Kev about Wendy's account and why it was frozen, because there were rumors that the reason why it was prompted was because Lil Kev was taking out thousands of dollars. Lil Kev says that he always received permission from his mom. His mom always encouraged him, let's spend this money. Based off of what we've seen in the documentary, even at the table when they were having lunch together with the entire family, not the first lunch, she brought him T-shirts. And he said what she would do in part one. He said what she would do over the years in order to kind of make up for her drinking. She would buy him things. So I'm not surprised when he says that, she was like, spend the money, buy what you want. It was her way of kind of making up for being the way that she was. So Wanda then goes, so they talk a little bit more about Kevin being removed as power of attorney, and the reasoning behind that could be a variety of different reasons. One, when it was assigned, maybe Wendy wasn't in the right state. Second, maybe he did something that prompted them not to trust that he'd be a good power of attorney. We don't know. All right. So Wanda then talks about the process that happened and them asking her to be guardian, and then her subsequently being sort of iced out of anything. And we have to keep in mind, the family has no contact with Wendy unless she calls them. They don't know where she is. Even till now, they do not know where she is. So when she calls, they try to make sure that they pick up. So she talks about that. She says that the guardian system is broken if this is how it works. All right. Wanda says she doesn't know where Wendy is, but she does know that she is in a place where she's actually healing psychologically and physically. So she feels positive. Like the moment that Wanda enters this documentary is actually it's uplifting, because at the end of this documentary, you kind of feel like maybe there's a spark of hope. Maybe something will get better. Because she says Wendy is sounding like the Wendy I knew years ago. And I'm thinking to myself, like, really? Okay, I mean, that's hopeful, even though her diagnosis doesn't sound hopeful. So she talks a little bit about that. And then we get a call from Wendy. Alex picks up. Alex brings the phone to her mom. Her mom takes her off off of speaker and has a conversation. Clearly, based on what Wanda says to Wendy, she's like, document the date and that you received no response. And the producer is like, what was that about? Can you talk about it? And she was like, no. Wanda was like, no. I'm reading between the lines. It looks like they're trying, because the guardianship is up for review this year, they're trying to prove something. Maybe negligence, maybe this particular guardian is not good. We shall see. My hope in 2024 is that the family is assigned the guardianship. That is my hope. All right? So, Wanda doesn't let us know. We then get another scene with Will, and Wendy calls, but he rushes her off the phone because he has to shoot a scene. I'm wondering if she's not allowed to film anymore, and that's why he rushed her off the phone, or was he rushing off the phone because it's him? I'm not too sure. All right? I'm not too sure. But he does give us an update on her condition, and he says that she's doing better. He had just saw her not too long ago. She's gained some weight. I was like, all right. It all sounds hopeful towards the end of this. So, of course, they are reflecting. According to Wanda, she says that Wendy says that she's ready to talk to the guardian and talk about next steps. And Wendy has finally admitted to the family. She's like, I forget things sometimes. So at the end of this documentary, they flash back over Wendy's career and her influence, and she also talked about the importance of family. I have to say, Lifetime, I usually hate your movies, but this documentary, I was like, y'all did a great job. I don't know if this production company has worked with Lifetime before, or this was like a separate thing they just did, and Lifetime had a 3-picture deal with Wendy. This fulfills that 3-picture deal. But I was just like, they did a good job. Bravo. Not Bravo the network, but, Good question. Danny says, how did Will get to see Wendy and not the family? That is my question. Why is Will still involved directly and can see Wendy and the family has not? It's strange. It's weird. But Wanda says in this documentary, if doing this documentary and being so open about this puts public pressure on us to fight even harder, then good. Well, yeah, we want you to hashtag free Wendy Williams. Hashtag free Wendy. It worked for Britney Spears. I'm sure it will work for Wendy Williams. She should be with her family. I know some people might question the family's intentions. I don't think that the family is worse than what is already around her. I think it would be a lot better. Just keep Tommy away. Tommy needs supervised visitation. I'm going to stand on that one. He wasn't as bad in the documentary, but look, supervised visitation, please, for Tommy. All right, we're going to drop the call-in link. Callers, I'm not going to be able to get to everyone today because I do have to be live again for our Married to Medicine recap. We did recap Real Housewives of Potomac earlier today, so be sure to check that out if you missed it. I've been working hard, y'all. Working hard. If you're a member of the channel, we're dropping the call-in link right now on the community tab here on YouTube. For those that are watching on TikTok, head on over. For those that are asking who Tommy is her brother. Tommy is her brother. You see him in the documentary. Live chat, we'll drop the call-in link for you guys in a second. We have, 2,000 of you here and 500 likes? I'm just going to give you the side eye. Okay, if you're listening to the audio version of this live recap of the Where is Wendy Williams documentary part 2, we will not be including the callers, but if you want to hear the callers, head on over to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe there and also hear our callers. All right. So, okay, we've dropped the call-in link for our members. A live chat, I will drop the call-in link. Let's get to 600 likes. I guess I'll be nice today because I just want to get off of here so I can go finish watching Married to Medicine so we can recap it. All right. So here are my final thoughts on the documentary. Like I said to you before, I feel as if they did a fantastic job with the documentary. I felt like the documentary was beautifully done, especially at the beginning when they're playing that Nina Simone song, and the way they were just showing Wendy, and then the way just how they told the story, And then towards the end, I'm so glad that Wanda finally decided to do this, because for me, she spoke with such conviction and such hope and such resilience. And then that conversation between her and Wendy, I was just like, we needed this to sort of like round out this documentary. We needed this. We definitely needed this. So shout out to the entire Wendy Williams family. Sean Zanotti, go to, look. Where's my... Will Selby. Ain't no good gonna come to y'all. All right? Shout out to Black Chyna. This was such a sweet moment in part 2 of this Wendy Williams documentary. Loved it. Wendy, obviously we love you and only wish the best for you. Did you guys watch the Where is Wendy Williams documentary? If you're part of the Replay crew, be sure to let us know your thoughts on this documentary and what stood out to you and things that maybe we didn't talk about. Let me know. All right, so let's get to some callers so I can get out of here really quickly. Live chat, thank you so much for the likes. Let's go to 700 likes next. We got quite a few callers backstage that we're going to bring up. We're going to bring up Nicole first. Again, guys, please respect the timer so that we can get to everyone. All right, let me switch this out so that we can put up our disclaimer as well. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're going to bring up Nicole first. Nicole, what's going on? What are your thoughts on this Wendy Williams documentary?
Oh, my gosh. Hey, Kempire. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. It was just hard. I saw it. I caught up on it today. And it was just so heartbreaking. And I think the thing I was so disturbed by is all those yes people around her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. What is wrong with people today? No integrity, no character. Just do what's right. If you see that someone is failing cognitively, you have to question that. You can't just like dismiss it. And that Sean girl, I'm just like, really? You're saying like, oh, well, because she's okay with drinking. I've never seen her drunk or passed out anywhere, so she's fine. I'm like, are you that much of an opportunist? Like, this could be your mother, your grandmother, your aunt. And I've had family members that suffer from Alzheimer's or dementia. And without knowing with dementia, you know, I had one that passed away last year, and they remember one of the most traumatic things in their life. That's why sometimes they'll keep repeating that. Like you kept hearing her talking about Kevin Hunter. Yeah. Well, her husband. And then they might remember that one bright spot, but they'll go back and get triggered to that old traumatic thing. Yeah. And they can keep talking about that for years and years and years. So I wish her well and her family. You know, and give it to her son. He is a smart, self-aware child. Yeah. He's a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She did a great job raising him. All right. Thank you. Have a blessed.
You too. Take care. All right. We're going to bring up Alex next. Alex, what were your thoughts on this documentary?
I'm sorry. I have a chip in my mouth. You know, okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This documentary was so sad. It was depressing in how sad it was. Sean, you can go straight to HE double hockey sticks, and Will, you're in purgatory for now. We're still trying to figure you out, but you're on the lower side. You're closer to HE double hockey sticks than you are to the upside. Let's get that straight. You know, with my experience, you know, Wendy, the alcoholism and then also her dementia can make her be very mean at times. And then also you can tell with dementia, you can have good days and you can have bad days where you don't remember anything. And then you can remember a lot on certain days. I'm hoping that what Wanda's saying is true and that she's getting like better, actually getting better, and not that she's having good days and bad days. Yeah. Because that's just par for the course. You know, it's so sad that someone like Wendy could be taken advantage of like this, and her family be completely left out. That is, it's a failure of the guardianship system, and it's a failure of the people that are supposed to be protecting Wendy. Yeah. Looking at you, Sean, who's just trying to keep your job, and Will, who is pretending to take care of Wendy because you're just trying to keep her job, and you're trying to keep the family away so they don't. Sean and Will are trying to keep the family away so that they don't realize that they are not good for Wendy and that they're just mooching off of her.
Well, this documentary didn't do any of them favors. All right, Alex.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for calling in. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we have Elle Michelle backstage. We're going to bring her up next. Hold on. Elle Michelle, what's going on?
Hi, Kempire. I'm so happy to talk to you. I cannot wait till you get to Atlanta because I got my ticket.
Yay!
And I will be in the back. We'll see you on the step and repeat.
Yes.
But regarding Wendy, first of all, I love Wendy. I'm from a small town in South Carolina, so we really did not get introduced to Wendy probably for like 15 years ago, really. So I feel like I got shortchanged for Wendy. I cried so many times. I shed so many tears because in that moment, I felt like Angela. Like, I felt like you taught me, like, for me, like, I have a mother. I have a great mother. Actually, me and my mom used to watch Wendy Williams and then get on the phone and compare notes about Wendy Williams. And then I kind of kept it going after my mom died. It was like a thing I would continue doing. But to watch Angela hold on to her, for some reason, I felt like I was Angela in that moment. I'm not going to cry. But I just want to leave with this one last thing. Sean Zanotti is proof that you cannot trust people with a bad leave out. That's all. You have a great day.
Elvisha was ready on the verge of tears, and then she's going to drop that bomb. Really? Okay, don't go come to you in that weave. Okay, anyways, let's bring up Daphne next. Daphne, what were your thoughts on this Wendy Williams documentary?
Hello, Kempire. This was really tough, but I'm going to try to respect the time. Share a little bit of insight based on experience. I used to work for a financial institution up until last year, and I was part of the client-facing team, but I was not an advisor. But within the financial institution, we're all trained to look for certain signs and then report fraud alerts. So one of the things that they look for, unusual transactions. So let's say there were normal transactions that the companies used to, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there seems to be, these crazy large withdrawals that are, so that also with financial institutions, that pulls like a serious red flag. Also, we were trained to listen for coaching during phone calls. So let's say, I call in and I say, hey, I'm Kempire, blah, 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 and I may be able to give certain personal information, but we also listen to see if someone on the other end is coaching the person, especially for the elderly. So saying oh, ask for this or say this. So these are things where watching the documentary, it makes me think, like, were these things happening considering Wendy's condition? So I just wanted to share that with the group. And I'm sorry, I know I went over, but also we look for cognitive changes. So I did have a client that, it wasn't my personal client, but I worked with a client who did develop dementia. And he was very impressive because he was very well aware of it. And we noticed he would come in out of nowhere. He would drive to the office, and we knew he lived about 20 minutes away, and we knew it was dangerous. He would call, and his speech wouldn't be clear, and he would always call me. So what I recommend, and again, I'm sorry for going over, what I recommend is what we did with my dad. When my dad was diagnosed, when he was alive and he was diagnosed with dementia, he was still very lucid. He was very cognitive. So what I did was went to an estate planning attorney with him and my mom. And we had the papers done because he was still able to answer questions, no coaching or anything. We had those papers done for both of them. And that was a blessing because he passed November 2021. And it just made it so much easier to protect like the home they own in Brooklyn and, whatever other assets. Yeah. And I hope an attorney could chime in when we talk about a different part. I am curious as to, for Kevin to be removed as power of attorney, you have to do that legally. So was Wendy behind it because he doesn't want her drinking and things like that? So that's something else to consider where it's not so much that he lost it. she had to be behind him being removed and the reason why.
Because
so,
it does say in the documentary, I guess when they went to court or something like that, she asked for Kevin to leave because she wanted to drink her drink and she wanted her Whoppers. So
exactly. And she could have become a ward of New York State, which is why they appointed the guardian. And it's so difficult. So I just wanted to share that. Again, I'm so sorry for going over.
No, it's okay. I mean,
but I
very
wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Daphne. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. Again, guys, this is why estate planning is important as well. It's got me thinking. I was like, I need to make... Anyways, all right, we're going to get to some more callers, guys. Again, yes, we allowed Daphne to go over, but I want to be able to get to everyone, so please respect the timer unless you are an estate attorney, okay? And we have Dr. Joe Mendoza backstage. Dr. Joe Mendoza, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm also a state attorney.
No, goodbye, Joe. What are your thoughts on this documentary?
No, okay, so I just have, it's not really a thought. It's more of just a question related to the previous caller that joined in. I wonder if in Wendy's case, she has her separate court-appointed attorney, or does she share the same attorney as the guardians? Because technically, apparently, from what I read in New York in New York law, Wendy, as the ward of the state, could technically ask for the court to appoint her own attorney if there are concerns about the guardians. So if there are concerns about that, then maybe that should be what Wendy and or her family should push for. Yeah. And hopefully her family could actually attend the hearing as well when it's time to actually review the guardianship, because they can technically attend as interested parties. But that's all I have from fake
Mendoza and Mendoza. LC. All right. Thank you so much, Joe. All right. We're going to get to some more callers. Guys, don't forget to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting the channel. We're talking about the part 2 of the Wendy Williams documentary. If you're part of the replay crew, be sure to let us know your thoughts and the things that stood out to you in regards to this documentary. We're going to bring up Brandy next. Brandy, what's going on? What were your thoughts?
Hey, Kempire. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Thank you. This documentary was so sad to me. I haven't even seen the whole thing yet, but it did remind me of a movie on Netflix called I Care a Lot.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have. Disturbing.
Yes. And it's like, I didn't even hear about guardianship and stuff like that until Britney Spears' case. But this just seems to be the definition of more money, more problems, because it's like for people to have the opportunity to just like that movie, for instance, do crazy things and take advantage of people that have so much money is sad, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in, Brandy.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. We're going to bring up Kari next. Hold on. Kari, what's going on?
Hey, so I don't really have much to say about the documentary. I wanted to say something about the watchers, right? Everyone's saying that, oh, this is what Wendy gets because she's done this and she's done that. She's a horrible person. There are way more terrible people out here that are living just fine, okay? Ooh. All of y'all can grow old just like Wendy is growing older. All of y'all can get dementia. Y'all can get Alzheimer's. Y'all can get any of these things. These are mental disorders, okay? This is not something that God is sending down to people just because they're a horrible person. Otherwise, why is Trump okay, never mind. I just want to say I need y'all to really operate with grace and move with like sympathy and empathy. And while you're out here saying that Wendy got this cognitive disease because she's a horrible person, you might want to watch yourself because you're not being too nice to yourself, are you? No, you're not. Anyway, my child took my phone out of my hand. Bye, y'all.
Bye, Kari. All right, we have, hold on, let me restart this. All right, we're going to bring up Dr. Payne next. Guys, don't forget, we will be live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. PST for our recap of Married to Medicine. We will be taking callers for that recap. That is their season finale. Dr. Payne, what are your thoughts on this? All the way down there in Miami.
in Miami, and I can't wait for you to come down. Honestly, Kempire, I didn't watch it. I only watched you on TikTok watch it. That's what I watch. And I can't wait for you to review Married to Medicine. I just like to say, I love that you played the video from the doctor starting just talking about what can happen in various forms, because we all need to be more aware of how much is happening to a younger group of people. And there's been talks that say this is all inflammation. Inflammation shows up in the brain. Inflammation shows up in your heart. Inflammation shows up everywhere. And there was also signs that people would say that this is diabetes type 3, right? Because high fasting blood glucose levels brought on by alcohol and other things, right, could also give you inflammation. Guess where? Even in your brain.
Wow.
So if people are looking for this dramatic thing, he's right. There's no cure. But be for real, and serious about eating well, taking care of yourself, reading, having good people around you. And that's all. Love you a lot. I love all your callers as well.
Thank you,
and
Dr.
I'll see
Payne.
you in a little bit.
Thank you, Dr. Payne. And she did that without making us feel bad. Thanks, Dr. Payne. Oh, she didn't give us the Dr. Jackie treatment. Sorry, Dr. Jackie. All right, Nikita, we're going to bring you up next. Nikita, what is going on?
Hello.
Hey.
So I'm a mental health professional. I'm a psychotherapist in Brooklyn. And so what really made me think about, and I'm a woman of a certain age. How you doing? So what it really made me think about is just kind of like what you value, right? Like I really looked at not just the quality of her life, but also the quality of just kind of like the things that she valued. You see, she valued celebrity. She valued her work ethic. She valued family. And at the end of the day, when all of those things crumbled for her as a woman of a certain age, she really didn't have much left, right? Like she always talked about not really making friends and like, focusing on her family and going to do the celebrity thing and then going home and going to be with her family. And when those things no longer served her, what did she have left? And so it showed me, just how important it is to value your circle. I know a lot of women that I work with and that I speak to get to a certain level in life and then they don't have the things they thought that they would have. And so I would just implore everybody not only to focus on your mental health, focus on your physical health. Let's get our finances in order. And another thing that I'm going to say, and then I'm going to end this, is that as we get into the age of perimenopause and menopause, some of us are getting up there, that also affects dementia as well. And so hormone replacement therapy, like we've made a lot of advancement, diet, exercise, all of those things that we said, but your circle, we gotta tap into our sisterhood circle. Don't just throw away our friends just because we get into these relationships. We got to start to value and cultivate safe spaces so that we don't have this happen. What really affected me the most about the Wendy Williams thing was the loneliness.
Yeah. She talked about that a lot in part 2.
Yeah. So I don't want to take up too much time, but
thank
love
you, Nikita.
We
appreciate you sharing your experience and that sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. And look, and I think I learned, especially during the pandemic, remember, a lot of that is also playing in this whole Wendy Williams situation, too. Remember, she was home, she was on her show, and then she was working from home during pandemic, like a lot of us. A lot of people's mental health and physical health were greatly affected. And if you had an addiction, it was also greatly affected during the pandemic. And it reminded me how important, no matter if you own your home, you rent your home, you have to make it a home. It has to be a place. If, God forbid, you have to be there day in and day out, it feels that way. It's not just a place where you lay your head. So that's also really, really important. So this is just another reminder of that. And I love what Nikita had to say. We have Felicia backstage. We're going to bring her up next. Felicia, what's going on?
Hi, Kempire. I really love what that last caller said. I've worked for Wells Fargo Advisors before in a marketing capacity. And as she said, anybody who works in the institution, we're all trained about clarity, intention, and duress. So there's a little tidbit that people I don't think that they realize. What happened was Kevin Jr., when he was in Florida with Wendy, they went to the Wells Fargo bank. And if you don't realize, there's a differentiation between the bank and the financial advisor side, which is the brokerage side. They went into a commercial bank, and she was accompanied by Junior and Kevin Sr.'s attorney.
Yes, I remember
the
that.
former female attorney. And at that bank, she was trying to conduct a financial brokerage transaction, which they cannot do. So the protocol is that they call her wealth manager, and then they need to speak with her to verify clarity of mind, intention of the transaction she was trying to conduct, and then are you under duress? When they attempted to have her come in to speak to the wealth manager, she didn't want to go in alone. The two people wanted to come in, which is not the protocol. I'm just going to wrap up. So she was by herself, and when she went in alone to talk to the attorney, he said, "What are you trying to do? What's going on?" And she had apparently been going to banks in New York with nefarious people. If you've ever saw the Fat Joe interview, a bunch of hoodlums and stuff at her house, she was going to the bank herself. So when he couldn't verify the clarity, and she said, "I'm with my attorney," he said, "What attorney is with you?" When she stated who the attorney is, Wendy had previously fired that attorney that was associated with Kevin Hunter. So right away,
the same attorney that recently posted on social media the video.
Exactly. So that was why the account was immediately flagged, and then they conducted an audit, and they had an agreement that Kevin had an account that was connected to Wendy's account. And as you said, he had a certain amount of money he was allowed to spend. She paid his tuition. She paid his living expenses. He went above that and was starting to make transactions that were going to go into her account they needed approval for. And when they conducted an audit, Kevin Jr. and Kevin Sr., all I'm going to say is that there was monies, so you cannot really basically, when you heard in the documentary, the sister said they conducted an investigation of the entire family. So what I'm saying is that Kevin is out because even when he was younger, he might have been irresponsible and not knowing what to do, what was going to happen to his mother. He might have been influenced by Kevin Sr., and monies apparently were going to Senior and other members, and that was considered a member of the family. That woman was not her attorney. So Wells Fargo locked up her accounts to safeguard, because the other transactions that people that I know in Wells Fargo, they said that she was going to the bank and to the point where she was giving people money cash, taking out the daily max, and then they started using her credit card, as you heard her other manager did. So she was being fed by both sides. And the last thing, because I'm in marketing communications, is that Will and his girlfriend and those fake manager people, what they're doing is pimping Wendy out. She places a story, and then he calls the paparazzi. And remember when she came out of the gym, the cameras were right there? That is how they're making cash off of Wendy daily. They need her to get up, to get out, and pretend to go places, pretend to do things. And when she shows up at locations, they get paid. They get paid cash. They get paid for the photos. They get paid to leak stories. So they need her to be up and out. They could care less about whether or not things are really going to happen. And obviously, the publicist will probably never work again. I'm a market communications person. I would never hire her. But she was just trying to get meetings. Because remember in the documentary, they said, remember her sister said, "Where does Sean live?" She said, "I'm from California." So what she was trying to do is get meetings for herself, network for herself, and of course get this great job. But I just wanted to mention the point that the reason the family, I don't think that the sister was involved, the good people, but there was some transactions that were happening
that prompted
on both sides. So she has vultures all around her, and you know what they said? We can trust no one. And then the banks, they make money off of her money. And from what I understand, they secured, I think, $40 million of her money. That have, apparently she was down. She went from $20 million to $500,000. They reinvested some money for her to make money. And she won't have access to that. And everyone that you talk to Wells Fargo, she should have been put in long-term care. She needs 24-hour round-the-clock care where her family can come visit her, nefarious and otherwise, but she can be visited by the people, and she should have been there. And apparently in California with the Bakers Act, they could have put her under and held her in California. So I think that was why the the studio needed her to come back to New York because if they put her under the Bakers Act, she would have been kept in Florida. I'm not going to take your time, but that was the part I wanted to point. Like,
you brought a lot
family and Kevin and all that. And I'm like, listen, Kevin was spending $100,000 on Uber Eats, and he also right now for cash, he is a party promoter. So he's making money. That's how he's getting his little cash. He's a party promoter.
I also heard that
Wendy only agreed to pay his stuff when he stayed in school. And apparently there was a semester he wasn't in school. So
I also heard that he's getting an allowance now.
Parties.
I also heard that he's getting an allowance now. So
yes, he has. Well, he was an allowance before, but she was only paying that allowance as long as he stayed in school to pay for his tuition and his apartment. But at one point he wasn't in school. He was just throwing parties. And what they believe is that he was using the credit card to rent facilities and the things that he needed for his business. Okay. And then when he needed money to live, and that's why you see it's written he was evicted from his place because they couldn't pay the rent.
Yes,
and who's paying $70,000 in Miami for an apartment? So even if you put $20,000 for tuition and $20,000 for a place to live, that's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then where was the money all going? So that's what I feel bad for her sister, but neither one of them could be. And I think, just think who was helping him throw the parties? The cousin that said he was a black sheep that I really thought that talked the most. But if you're a young kid and you're on campus, they may not know that they're aiding and abetting what people are doing. I don't think her sister and her niece know everything, but I think that the sister, her aunt, and her father are blameless. But I wouldn't trust their money to Tommy and Kevin
hell no, never Tommy.
The cousin and all these
Felicia, you brought so much great clarity on so many different levels. This is part of the reason why I'm definitely, for those that are listening to audio version, this is why I'm going to keep the callers in, because this is going to be helpful information to give context to the documentary, but also for people in their own lives in similar situations. Felicia, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Love your show.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Oh, so that's why Will is trying to get her up. He's like, get up. So that's why the paparazzi were everywhere all the time catching her. Wow. All right, let me get to the callers. I got to go. I got 5:30. At 5:30, I have to be back. And I have to finish watching Married to Medicine, guys. We will be live again. Right now, we're talking to some callers in regards to this Wendy Williams documentary. All right, we're going to bring up Rasani next. Rasani, we got to respect the timer. All right, Rasani?
I don't know why you like to wait until I come on before you say that.
I got to go. Go ahead.
Okay. I heard what the other caller said, and I understand and agree. While watching the documentary, my thought was Will doing the getting out and about to make her feel busy, active, so that she's not like stuck in the apartment, lonely, not doing anything. I don't necessarily think that. First of all, I'm hi Kempire. Sorry, I'm sorry that you're going through all this, Wendy. I don't necessarily feel that it was the guardian that's keeping her away from her family. I think it's Wendy that doesn't want to be around her family because she wants to be able to consume her alcohol in peace. I did read somewhere, I don't know, maybe Dr. Obi or Dr. Payne can do some clarification on it, that with the alcohol-induced dementia, I'm sorry about all the laughter in the background, that if you stop drinking, it can, your body can heal itself. It may not be, you're not going to be 100%, but it can heal itself.
No.
So I'm hoping that for her. Yeah. I feel bad. I'm sorry, I'm going over a little bit. I think this is a PSA to all of us that it's important to not value things and value people and value relationships, because it's so sad to see that you've come up and you have no one around you.
Yeah. Rasani, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
All right, we're going to bring up Samantha next. Samantha, thank you so much for waiting patiently. What are your thoughts on this Wendy Williams documentary?
Hi, Harry. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yes. So I'm calling. When I was watching it, I actually do adult protective services. So I work with guardianships and conservatorships a lot. my first thought, like the state I work in, they separate the two. So guardianship is when you're physically responsible for someone, like placement, medical. Conservatorship, you're in charge of their money and assets. My first thought was that I thought the son should be the guardian, but not over the finances. And I thought that because I think there's more to it than what we're being made aware of. There's a reason why, he was taken off. So it could have been concerns of some financial exploitation. But I also think you have to think about it. If you give Kevin Jr. access to the funds, is that also giving Kevin Sr. access to the funds? I mean, that is his father, and you have to remember he was going through a lot at the time. He was losing
and he was cut off.
Credit card debt. So if the son was in charge of her finances, if he would have asked his father, if his father would have asked him for some money, who's to say he would not have given him some?
No.
So I do think she needs a professional over her finances, but family over her physically, if that makes sense.
Definitely does. Definitely does.
Okay.
Thank you, Samantha, for calling in.
No problem.
Bye.
Thanks.
We got a lot of people with expertise calling in today. I love our community. All right, let me get to these last couple of callers. Jenna, what's going on? What are your thoughts?
Hi, Kempire. Hi, everybody. It's good to talk to you. Even though it's such a heavy topic, I wanted to call in and just say, I appreciate the wealth of information on the call. And I'm certainly no expert. I know I've called in before. I mentioned I've been in adoption, and now I work in the tech industry. And but I did actually once do a lot of work for a will and estate attorney. And there was the one sister that was mentioning how, she put the paperwork in place for her dad and her mom both at the same time when the dad got sick. And I think that's so important for people to remember. But also remember this, that even though it's something that nobody wants to talk about and end of life stuff, and obviously all of this is very sad, it's a lot easier to do this when everybody's young and healthy, and you're thinking it's like 50, 60 years down the line, than have to do it and sit in the paperwork as a lawyer, knowing that you're going to need to pull up this paperwork in like 30 days when the person dies.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to put that in place, put funeral planning in place, and it's not just for people who are older and healthy, because tomorrow's promised to no one. Yeah. But on the lighter note, I'm seeing you in Philly.
Thanks, Jenna. Jenna, you came to New York, you came to D.C., and now you coming to Philly. What did you say at the end?
I said, City Winery, their website is playing, because I don't know if it's the mobile side or the, but I tried it on the laptop too. But we might have to talk to somebody, because I actually work in websites, and so I'm like, you need a new website, City Winery. It's annoying, but I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna be in there with you, because I think somebody called me a Kempire groupie, but I'm not mad at it. I'll see you in Philly. See you next week.
Thanks, Jenna. Bye. I'm okay with you being a groupie, Jenna. Come on. I love it. She's going to be to all 3 shows. I don't mind if you come. Joe, you coming to the Philly show? I'm playing Joe. All right, Tyler's backstage. We're going to bring Tyler up next. What's going on, Tyler? What were your thoughts on this documentary?
Okay, so very briefly, I noticed that I saw a lot of talk on social media about how she treated her niece versus Black Chyna. I want to make this very clear. I think that when her niece came, it kind of reminded her like, hey, I'm not doing well or whatever. So she gave her that response. Keep in mind, she loves celebrities and wants to feel like she's close to that. So when Black Chyna came, that gave her the excitement, like, oh, wow, I am still important. That's why she got a better response. And one last thing that I do want to say to people is I'm so sick of hearing this is her karma. We all gossip. Everybody does. It's just that Wendy was paid millions for hers. And to be fair, a lot of stuff that Wendy Williams said has came to light, like about Diddy and other things. Let's be very clear. So it's not her karma. It's just a way of life. And let's just hope and pray that it does not happen to you. You know, those people that say that, not you, but you know, the people that are saying that's her karma. Let's just hope and pray that it doesn't tap on your door, because you have to be careful what you speak. But that's all.
Thank you, Tyler.
You're welcome.
Bye. All right. Last but definitely not least, we're going to bring up Danielle, and then I got to go because we're going to recap Married to Medicine at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. PST. Danielle, thoughts?
Real quick. Okay, so I agree with everyone with the whole karma thing. And to piggyback on that, I just want to say, if it wasn't for Wendy laying the ground for all this, a lot of these people wouldn't have jobs. A lot of these YouTubers who do the gospel, not necessarily you, because you're great.
No, me too.
But no, you probably would have found something else. You had your music career, you had other things.
Oh, look.
A lot of these people wouldn't be working. So how can you say this is her karma when her lifestyle, this is the path she created for you to be great? And then I want to remind people, when they talk about how she is now and her like in the celebrities and how she doesn't have family because she put everything else first. Remember the documentary Lifetime did on her that she helped produce, and she talked about how she didn't like herself when she was little. She thought she was fat. Her mother. I think all of those things play into who you become as an adult. So just imagine you're now an adult. You put these implants in your body and people talk about you love your mother, and I've never thought that she didn't love her parents as much. She used to bring them on the show and the moment she and her mom would have, but at the same time it was almost like she was looking for her mom's approval, and I think this gave her mom's approval. So now think about with the dementia, so think about the stuff that you've experienced as a child and how that mentally formatted you as an adult, and then put into the senior age of dementia and all the other things that come into play, and it just makes me feel worse for her as I'm sitting here listening to people like, oh, this is what she... No, just think about all the things that played into who she was and why she thought she needed stuff to make her feel identify that she was special, she was fabulous, she needed this, she needed that. And now she's like, I want my family. She realizes what life is really about, and it's about family. Yeah. Okay, see you guys in Philly. Y'all better get your tickets. Bye.
Thanks, Danielle. Bye. Thank you to everyone that called in. We always have amazing callers. Shout out to those that are listening to the audio version of this on the Kempire podcast. I'm going to keep the callers in just because there was so much value in everything that was being said. So thank you to everyone that called in. Thank you to everyone that sent in a super chat. Thank you to everyone that liked the video. But we have over 1,600 people on YouTube alone. Be sure to like the video. Let's get to 1,000 likes. I will see you all for our Married to Medicine recap at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to our channel members. Thank you to everyone that supports us here, subscribers. And of course, we cannot do this without our King's Guards. Thank you for holding us down in the live chat for such a very heavy topic. Go burn some incense. Go wash your hands with some water and put some positivity back on you. You know, I believe in all that stuff. I will see you guys a little bit later on. Let's get out of here. Thanks for tuning into Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. The Kempire Radio Network is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and plenty of other places. But don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on both Apple Podcasts and on Spotify because it matters. Thanks to everyone that has already given us a 5-star review. We appreciate your support. And don't forget to subscribe to the Kempire Radio YouTube channel, the backup channel for Kempire. And that's where you can also see visual versions of special episodes that won't be available anywhere else.